Check, check, check. Let's hope that we aren't laggy. We'll see. We'll see now. Welcome to the stream. Let's see. Hopefully we aren't laggy. We'll check. We'll wait a little bit and see. I'm hoping it's not. Doesn't look too bad. All right, cool. Love it. Sorry. Yeah, I know. I need to get some like intro music going or something like that. That's the next step. I don't think that I can handle that on my computer right now. But hopefully very soon we'll be able to get that going. For those who don't know me, my name is Jaron Horton. I was the 2023 Assistant Coach of the Year in the USFL with the Pittsburgh Maulers. I was a defensive coordinator there. I've got experience in the NFL, in the SEC. I've been an FBS coordinator, a professional coordinator. I got FCS experience. Built defenses from the ground up in the USFL that turned out to be the greatest spring league defense ever. And if you don't agree, you can check the stats. All right. So today we're going to go over cover 3. We're going to talk first about techniques, right? How are you teaching it? Because there are multiple ways to teach cover 3. And then we're going to look at some actual film and try to couple that together and see where we go. Yeah, that's facts. That's facts, James. Hopefully this doesn't crash for me. All right, so let's see. First, we'll go here. Hopefully we don't crash. Like I said, I'm going to have to get a new computer soon because this thing, it just ain't cutting it. All right, but first we're going to talk about 3 deep coverage, cover 3. All right, that's 4 under, 3 deep. So the terminology, like we talked about in the playbook construction, terminology doesn't matter as long as it's cohesive and it makes sense. This is my verbiage and my terminology. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just how I teach and the verbiage that I use. You can do whatever you want. All right. So when we're talking cover 3 defense, we're going to have 3 deep, 4 underneath players. And then we're going to have 4 players in the rush, 4 players that are typically D linemen. Doesn't have to be D linemen, but typically they're up front and they're rushing the quarterback or whatever, playing their gap and all that. In coverage, cover 3 deep. You're going to have a middle field safety who is our middle third player right here. You're going to have the middle third player. You're going to have typically your corners. You're going to have a third corner and a third corner. Like we said, however you call these, it doesn't really matter. Depending on how you teach, you might hear mod cover 3, which is man on demand, I believe is what that stands for. Basically, like if you're getting threatened vertical or outside, you take him in man-to-man coverage. Or you might hear the term MEG, which I believe stands for man everywhere he goes, which is really more how we teach it. I guess it's kind of man on demand. It's not man everywhere because we're not going to take him underneath right now. And that's typically how you're going to teach your corners, some form of that, or you're going to be true cover 3 where you're going to 2-to-1 read, like it says right here, 2-to-1 read. And that's basically, you also hear some people say midpoint 2-to-1 read, and that's big with China calls. And a China call is when you get one sitting down on a curl or a hitch, and 2 is going to go vertical and run like a 7 cut. Typically, that's like a quote unquote China concept, and that's how you can kind of play it. So if you're playing China rules, the curl flat player is going to expand out to 1, and the corner is going to get to 2 and get depth. That's if you have China rules built in. Personally, we don't run a whole bunch of China, just because it can get airy, in my opinion. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's definitely nothing wrong with it. It's just how you're built. And sometimes you might want to run China, sometimes you might not, based on what the offense's tendencies are, what type of routes they like to run. Different things can kind of affect how you are going to play your cover three. But for us, like we said, 7 yards off or press. If it's a single sided receiver, that's our rules. And there is math to that, to being 7 yards off or press. If you're 7 yards off, by the time you pedal, they're going to break 7 or under on underneath routes. If they get past 12 yards, then they're going to go vertical. Typically, you don't have 15-yard breaking routes. You might get a comeback every now and again. But if the offense is beating us on 15-yard comebacks, and I'll call a different defense, because they're not going to be able to do that all the way down the field. So communicate is a big thing. It says down here, it says communicate China or no China. Gotta always communicate. Everyone on defense has to be on the same page. Like, if I call cover 4, but for some reason everybody on the defense plays cover 3, then we'll be all right. Like, it might not be the best situation for the down and distance, but as long as we are all on the same page, then we'll get through the down and we'll be fine. We'll be sound, at least on defense, but we can't have half of guys playing something and the other half playing something else. You can teach your middle field safety different ways to play. Like, if we're saying that our corner is going to be playing more China, more 2-to-1 read, and that's more zone defense, if you will, more zone rules, then your middle field safety is going to be like a true post middle field safety, where he's not responsible for specific man routes. Like, he's not responsible for vertical routes. He's just playing quarterback eyes, and he's trying to make any play between the numbers. And that's really where he's going to make his plays. Like, think Earl Thomas for Seattle. That's where he made a lot of his money. And then if you're playing how we play, where it's a little more man-oriented, depending on the formation, I want my post safety, my middle third safety, he needs to be aware of 2 weak, because if we get all goes, like I call touchdown check down, where it's just 4 verticals, all these guys are going vertical, then my middle field safety is responsible for 2 weak. He has to take the vertical of that route when it gets like 12, 15 yards down the field, because my nickel, my strong curl flat is going to carry too strong. That's not necessarily the right way. It's just how we do it. Works for us. Everyone's on the same page, so that's what we do. I wonder if I can erase all of this at once. Nope, I don't know. We'll figure that out later. The underneath guys are pretty consistent, more or less across scheme. So on offense, you can only have 5 eligible receivers in American football. Canadian, it's different rules, so I can't speak on that. I appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all for the kind words. But in American football and on offense, you can only have 5 eligibles. Typically, it's your receivers, tight end, and a running back. This is 11 personnel, right? And we talked about that yesterday. 11. The first number is the number of running backs. The second number is the number of tight ends. And those 2 numbers, add those together. 1 plus 1 is 2. So the remaining number out of 5 is 3. So that means there's 3 receivers. If it was 10 personnel, 1 plus 0 is 1. So there's 1, or 5 minus 1, I guess, is 4. And that's how you get 4 receivers. So that's kind of how to break down personnel and how that's kind of talked about. But we're in 11 personnel here. So they have 3 receivers, a tight end, and a running back. Our defense signifies strength by the 2 fast receivers. the slot and the other receiver. The tight end could be split out, but we still want the passing strength to be the two fast receivers because we want our nickel, who was a DB body for us. It was Bryce Tornadin, in 22, Shakur Brown, Xavier Lewis played nickel for us as well. Those are DB bodies. Those guys are 6 foot, 180 to 200 probably. All those guys are in that range, and they're DBs. They're corner safeties, hybrid type guys like that. Are we don't want that guy on the tight end and a linebacker or potentially a safety body on the receiver. We want those guys on the receiver and the other guy on the tight end when we can. So our strong curl flat player is going to be our nickel usually, right? Not all the time, but usually that's going to be our nickel. I'm going to have to figure out a better way to erase all this. But the curl flat players in cover 3, they're going to line up in some form or fashion outside of 2 because it's all about gaps. At nickel, typically I'm looking for a smaller, undersized guy, if you will. And then your bigger corners, your lengthier guys, or your outside guys, like. But this is not. That's a general rule of thumb, but it's not always. So like, for us, Keith Gibson was probably 6'2", probably 6'2", 205. Longer corner, lengthy, right? He wouldn't play nickel for us. Like Richard Sherman, he's an outside corner. He's not going to play in the slot unless there's a bigger slot receiver. But you don't want that guy necessarily on a smaller slot receiver. Like, you don't want that guy on like I'm trying to think of someone who does a lot of their work in the slot. Like Tank Dell, who's like 5'9", 160 and just lightning quick. I want a smaller DB that's quicker than length necessarily. But if they have a bigger slot receiver, then I might want to have like a guy like Jalen Ramsey. And Jalen Ramsey, he's special. He's a Hall of Famer where he can play outside, he can play nickel, he can do a lot of different things. And there aren't many guys that can do all of those things. But general rule of thumb, I want a nickel that's around, I don't know, 5'9" to 6 foot, and usually like 170 to 190, 200 on the big side. And they're a quicker guy, but that's a rule of thumb. So that guy always lines up to the passing strength in our defense. Yeah. Sherman against Tyreek in the slot's not going to be good. So our nickel would be our strong curl flat player right here. He's going to reroute, like it says right here, 10 to 12 yards. But that's if it's true country cover 3, like we're playing true zone defense. And that's what this is. This is true zone defense. How we do it when we get into our play sheets in a second, it's going to be a little different because he's going to carry the vertical of 2. And the weak curl flat player is going to drop at 10 to 12 yards because we talked about the middle field safety is responsible for the vertical of 2. And for me, in my mind, how am I going to cover 4 verticals out of 2x2 and 3x1? Any coverage we're talking about, that's the first thing I have to answer, because the quickest way for the offense to score is straight down the field, right? Just throwing 4 verticals, throwing the ball down the field. If I'm not covering everybody, then I'm not going to run the defense. That's the first answer that I have to have when I'm thinking of a defense, because that's the quickest way from point A to point B. And I was talking to my buddy Tate the other day, and he was saying it's not necessarily explosive plays that get you beat, it's explosive touchdowns. And I thought that was really good. You always want to defend another blade of grass. But back to this, we're talking the curl flat guys are always going to line up outside of 2, and that's also where their run fit is. The curl flat players are going to be outside of 2, and we kind of talked about it last stream. The hook curl players are going to kind of um, bracket 3, if you will. They should both be on either side of number 3, who in this situation is a running back. And we will be gapped out because we had the curl flat player here. And depending on what front you're running, you could be running a 4 down front, a 3 down front. But cover 3 is a single high, single gap defense. Where, say we're in a 4 down front, even though we don't do it a whole bunch, we'll just say that we are. And this is your typical 4 down front. Typically, you're going to set the 3 technique because this guy right here, you're going to set him to the tight end. Based on game plan, you might set him to the back, you might set him to the field, you might set him to the boundary, this, that, whatever. Doesn't matter for right now. I'm just showing gaps. So here we're gap, 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 gap. All right, we set our curl flat players outside right here, and we set our other curl flat players outside of 2. All right, there are only 2 other gaps. There's this A gap right here, and this B gap right here. So the hook curl players are responsible for those 2 gaps. It's simple. It's single gap, single high, single gap defense. If you get a puller, all right, now one of these gaps gets eliminated. This gap is gone now. He's taking up this whole space. So now he has to fall back with him, right? That's how simple it is. It's just single gap, single high defense. And they need to bracket 3. When it's all said and done, basically 1 is like the corner is responsible for 1, unless he goes underneath right now. If 1 is up the field, or if he runs an out, or if he runs a hitch, our corner is going to take that. So he's not even in the picture. Neither of these 1s are in the picture. So now we have 4 players to cover 3 players. Let me see if I can close this and open it and not save it. And we'll get back to that in a second, or we'll get right back to that. Let's see. That should be... All right. I just want to try to get some of that, all that drawing off of there. Cool. Here we go. All right. So now we'll zoom in a little bit. All right. So now we're talking about the 4 underneath guys based on, and their 3 receivers, right? They can only have 5, and we're talking about the inside 3 receivers. This guy is 3, and this guy is 2. We always want the same field spacing. And it's, if they flood the field, everyone goes on one side, then our guys need to adjust. But I always want 1 curl flat player outside of 2, hook curl player inside of 2, outside of 3, hook curl player inside of 2, outside of 3, and the other curl flat outside of 2, right? So it's field spacing, it's man spacing, however you want to talk about it. The more man-oriented, the more match-oriented you are, the more man you're going to fit. If you're true zone fit cover 3, then you're not really going to worry as much about the routes. You're just going to get to your spot drop. Like, the curl flat player is going to be on the numbers, and the hook curl players are going to be on the hash or 2 yards outside the hash, or whatever you deem their landmark, then you can play it like that. We're more man-oriented. That's just how we are. Do you guys have any questions about any of this stuff? Because that's the basic concept of cover 3 deep, 4 under. That's the typical basic concept. And we can always come back to this. But I want to right now talk about an actual play call. This for us is tight, strong 3, and I took out some of the code words are if they flood the field. I mean, in a perfect world, I would like to be in cover 6, like quarters to the side they're flooding. But we'll see in a little bit. When we get to the tape. I have a few bootlegs, which are a lot of floods, and that's how teams will try to attack you if you're in cover three. Cover six or cover four does work a little bit better versus those type of concepts. But I mean, sometimes they're going to hit you in it, and you just got to have it ruled out to where someone's got to go over with it, and we'll see that in a second. But yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, if I knew that they were calling flood or boot, I wouldn't probably call cover three. I'd call cover six or cover four, or some form of two potentially. So now, what we call tight strong three. Tight is the front, which sets us in a 5-0-5. 5 for me is head up on the tackle. Strong is telling which outside linebacker is in the charge, who is the fourth rusher, which is another reason that I like 5 down odd front, because they don't know where the fourth rusher is coming from. Because we talked earlier, 3 deep, 4 under is 7. So you have 4 available guys to rush the passer. And in an odd front like this, they don't necessarily know if it's coming from the strength or if it's coming away from the strength, or if it's a inside backer, because we have that type of stuff too. So that's why I like the 3 down world, the odd world, because they don't know all the time where that fourth rusher is coming from. So they can't necessarily slide their protection one way and always be right. So I took out the code words, but basically this left, and the code word left is telling us the safety is rotating left to play curl flat. And the other code word is telling us that the strong backer's in the charge. And I'll probably mess up at some point and say the code word, so if you pay attention, you'll probably figure it out. Sky Force is just saying the safety's a force player. He's outside of 2. Backer Force is saying the will is the other force. Read Force is the will is force or the corner, and Sky, same thing, safety. All right. When we're building a playbook and building calls, you want to have your pictures, right? So they can see, so your players can see the formation. And this is a base call for us because it's the 21, or it could be 12 now, because usually this F is like a tight end body. Not many people have actual fullbacks, but same concept. This guy could be like right here, and it would be no different. Our alignment, assignment, technique stuff is all in these boxes. So guys that learn by reading will look at this and they'll be like, okay, my alignment's in a 5. That means I'm head up on the tackle. If flow is to me, I'm going to be the B gap to work inside out. And if it's pass, I'm going to B gap, or I'm going to contain rush depending on the right or left call, right? Possible check wide, which is just a front check for us, gets them in a 6. We will be outside of the tackle. That's based on formation and game plan and stuff like that. Here, your alignment, your keys, your run responsibilities, your pass responsibilities, all that. All right. So that's basically just a play sheet and how we build it out. Your code words on the back, and then like we said the other day, I put in YouTube videos for these guys, like when they're actually on their playbook, if they have it on their iPad or if they have it on their phones, because in the USFL we didn't have iPads for every player. I think last year they did, but we didn't, so we had to kind of improvise. So it was like we used a Google Drive, and they were able to have the playbook with them on their phone, on their computer, on their iPad, whatever device they had, and then they could just click the link, click the word that says Tight Strong 3 teach tape, click it, and it takes them to the YouTube video of me kind of teaching it. So it was a way for us to kind of get around with that. So you see this is our empty check if we get to that. And now the other thing that I really like about this odd front defense, this 3-4 defense, is a lot of times when teams are a 3-4 team, when they get to nickel or their sub package, they're 4 down. So it's like today's world, probably, I mean, most teams are what, 80% 11 personnel at least. not many teams are like 12 teams where you're going to be in base. Some teams are. Some teams are a little more 12 depending on their personnel. But if you're in a 3-4 team, but when they go to 11 personnel, that gets you out of your 3-4 and back into a 4-2-5 or 4-3 I mean, it's the same thing basically. Then what's the point of being odd? It doesn't make sense. So the pictures are no different, other than we're changing the Sam to a nickel. So like the Sam for us last year was like, it was Nas player, it was Von Taylor, Isaiah Green May, Malcolm Howard, those outside backer type bodies. The Sam and the Will for us are the same person. They just play right and left. And now when we go to nickel, all right, the nickel for us is, like we said, that was Bryce, that was Shaq, that was Xavier, that was those bodies, the DB body. But we're still it's the same call. It's tight nickel sting 3 or it's tight strong 3. The only difference in this call is now the S is now an N. It's a smaller body, but it's a way for us to have the same call, the same picture. It's no new learning for anybody on the field. They're doing the exact same thing. We're still in our odd front versus 11 personnel, which offenses don't like to run against the odd front. It's hard to get angles on double teams, and it's hard to pull. So it's a way for us to stay in our odd front in nickel. And this is, in my opinion, what allowed us to be so good on defense, because we had the bodies up front. We had the Boogies, the Olives, the TBs, Okoyes to run this odd front and then be stout and stop the run, and take up double teams. So everything on this is the same. Like all the words are the same. It's just now it's nickel instead of Sam. And then I think this one has more formations. All right, so now I would have more code words up here, but I took them all off. But this is all our adjustments and formations, because some guys do learn like this. Some guys want to see pictures, and they see, okay, it's a 2x2, what we call deuce right. All right, deuce is the formation, 2x2 right, strength is to the right. Trips left. All right, if I get a 10 look, trio, we're going to get a switch call, and the safety is going to be the hook curl, and the dime's going to blitz. All right, this is all just, everything's drawn out. So basically any formation you can think of, we have it drawn out, and guys can look and they can see it, and we're good to go. How we're going to adjust to motion this call, we got to reload this one, how this is built. All right, and then our next cover 3 that we're going to talk about is what we call auto. And I like this call. This is like our base cover 3. Like this cover 3 is what we probably ran 80% of the time when we run cover 3. It looks like man to the offense because the safeties are going to adjust to the tight end. If it's a 2x2 formation, the safety is going to go to the weak side, and he's going to say his code word. And if it's 3x1, the safety is going to go to the tight end, to the strong side, and he's going to say his code word. And with that, it looks like man, because they don't know that's how, if you're playing a typical man defense, that's where the safety is going to go. He's going to go to the tight end in 11 personnel. So it's a way for us to kind of not show our hand right now. And then all of our adjustments, and then same thing. It's all these teach tapes, and then formation adjustments. 2x2, 3x1, our checks. There's probably motion adjustments. Next page. All right, so here, how we have it is the nickel runs with the receiver motion, and then the safety will handle all other motions. What we call change of strength motion, the nickel will handle, and the safeties will handle all other motion, all non-change of strength motion. All right, so that's basically 3 ways to run cover 3. We could run it, or it's really 2. We could run it a little more ways, more country cover three, but we'll get into that a little bit later. All right, so let me switch over real quick to the film. We should be right. All right, cool. So now we're looking at the film. Let me switch this over. And all right. So now this is from 2022, and the first stuff on here that we're going to look at is how offenses are going to try to attack cover three. All right. So this is, you can see down here. We'll walk through this first. All right. So this is how we will watch film with players, and this is a personnel up top left, offensive backfield set, formation, motion, and then the play will be here, and if it's a pass, all the route concepts will be right here. Down and distance, field position, play number in the game, defensive personnel down here, defensive call, and then these are the notes. So that's how it's built. All right, so now this is Shade 53 stay. We didn't talk about this defense because I don't like this defense, and we're going to see why we don't like this defense. This is like weak side safety rotation. Doesn't matter about the formation. We're always going to have the safety, how we talked about automatic, where the safety is going to like adjust to the formation. He could be on 3, he could be on 2 weak. In this call, he's always going weak. So in this situation, Malcolm is our safety, and he is down here. So now he's going to have to fit an interior gap. Here we get motion, so it doesn't work out. But like you see here, we get cut because we have to adjust to motion. Everyone's got to bump to motion. And I don't like that because I'd rather have the back end guys adjust to motion. But here, as it is right now, it's a 3-by-1 formation. So really now he's here. That's his fit. He's here. He's here. He needs to be there. He needs to be there. He's here and he's here. Like we're lined up very incorrectly here. We need to all bump over. However, now with this motion, now they're like more correct because he would be out here, he'd be here, he'd there, here, and here. We need to fall back with this guy because now he's coming in. All right. But you can see we get gashed here because we're not fit correctly. And that's a reason that I don't like this form of cover 3. All right, similar look right now. They're starting in a 3-by-1 concept. So our safety right now is technically responsible for that gap. He's responsible for this gap, and he needs to be out here because he's fitting off of him. This is 2022, and in this game, they were asking, I don't know who it was. Some of the guys were asking at halftime for like more 4-down cover 3, and I was like, all right, like if you want it, we'll call it because I wanted to prove a point and be like, this is why we don't run it. And after that, it was like, okay, well, like we get it. And I mean, you can see the score; it was 16-0. So like, I was like, well, if they hit us, they hit us. Like we hadn't scored any points, and I was just like, hey, all right, you want this call, then we'll give you this call. But here you can see we're getting gashed because we weren't fitting it correctly. And if they know that you're running cover 3 like this with this safety rotation, then they're going to make that safety fit in the box. They're going to make that guy, make the DB, make the tackle in the run game. That's what they want. All right, so now we're looking at a pass concepts. All right, we've probably already seen this one potentially the other day. We're playing cover 3. Here we're playing it, like I said, this is tight wheel auto. You can see down here, here's a call. But how we run it, we've played New Jersey all in 2022, and then we scrimmaged against them, and like we shared a building with them, so they know us. They know what we do. All right, they know that this guy has to carry this vertical in cover three. Good. That's really good. That's what I'm trying to help y'all with. And if y'all have questions, please ask questions. They're gonna attack this guy up the field because they know how we're built. If we were playing China, this is what we're talking about. The corner would take this, and the nickel would expand there. But that can get airy because he could like bend away from the corner. They're gonna attack Bryce, our nickel, with speed, which is fine. Bryce does a good job here. He's gonna widen that release out so he can't stack him. He's gonna work to cut it off. Like that's a really good look at what you want that guy to do. And I know that I'm cutting it off at the end, but he doesn't catch the ball. Bryce cuts him off. All right, we'll look at the next play. All right, so now this is another way that they're going to attack cover three. They're going to attack it with 4 verticals, like this. Yeah, safeties have to fit the run, always. If it's too high or single high, there's going to be a safety in the fit no matter what. This is the other way. They'll attack the seams. Yeah, no, ask questions. Because we're saying we're cover three, right? So he's a deep third, he's a deep third, and he's a deep third. He's an underneath guy, he's an underneath guy, he's an underneath guy, he's an underneath guy. So in theory, these are, oh nice, these are soft spots in the defense, the seams. How we talked, right? We said our nickel is responsible for 2 vertical. That's Bryce. All right, so now our post safety is responsible for 2 weak vertical. If we were playing true zone cover 3, then we would play it a little different. Where now, if it was true zone cover 3, when we get this concept right here, the corners are going to midpoint, and the safety has to be able to make the play from him to him, from what we said, numbers to numbers. That can get a little airy, and that's why I personally don't like that in this level of football. If it's in high school and you're not playing quarterbacks that can consistently make the sideline throw, or they can't consistently get the zip on the seam ball, okay, then you might want to play more zone. That might work better for you. This is just what worked for us. So here, like we said, they're going to attack the seams. Malcolm does a really good job of playing a little bit deeper and forcing that route back inside because it's 3rd and 12. You can't see it down here. Actually, you guys can see it right here up in the top right. 3rd and 12. So he's going to play that a little bit looser, if you will, a little deeper to allow Tarp some time to get over there. Great play by both of those guys. Tarp just finish it. All right, so now this is another way that teams will attack cover 3. All right. Most people probably know this concept as Y seam. I call it Oregon, just because the Oregon Ducks used to run it a lot, and that's what I call it. And basically, it's field spacing. So you get a vertical by 1 week, a flat control concept down here. All right, so they're gonna take the curl flat player out, and then you're gonna get a guy going to the flat this way. He's going to climb up like this. He's going to go either here or he's going to go across the field like that. So basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to hit this ball right here, 10 to 12 yards. For us, it's like 2 yards inside the number because they're going to take the curl flat guy out and then it's going to pass this hook curl player. All right, that's the read if they're getting single high, or if they get single high and they want to throw this ball down here because they like this matchup. Cool, they can do that too. All right, it just depends. But that's their read. All right, this is a good cover 3 concept. So as you can see, he's not going to take this because he's seeing this as an over. It's not a vertical to him. So he's going to pass that off and zone off. All right, but here our curl flat player is getting taken out. All right, I think he went the wrong way. I think he's supposed to go that way because they're kind of in the same spot. But as you can see here, our curl flat player, who would be in this area right here, is going this way. He's gone. And the hook curl player, this route's coming right over here. He's a little deep. Where's the ball right here? That's 10. This is 12. Okay, so no, it's not. He's 12 yards deep. The ball, see him, he's getting ready to get the ball. It would be right here. That's just a hole in the defense. That's a route that they like to run. We can have this guy see this as a vertical route, which we sometimes do, and have him take that all the way across the field. But here, our post safety is responsible for two up the field. He doesn't go up the field, so now he can help on this over, and he triggers. And that's probably why the quarterback doesn't throw it, because he might, it's third down and he's under some pressure, he might try to throw this ball, but if he does, Tarp's going to hit him and it's going to be either a pick or a incompletion. All right, but that's another way that you can attack cover 3 if you're an offensive coordinator, or if you're a defensive guy. This is a way that teams are going to try to attack us in cover 3. So tell my guys, this is where the hole is. This is where they're going to attack it. Tell my hook curl player, when you feel that over route, expand a little bit, because they're trying to hit it on the other side of you. Safety, that's where they're trying to hit this ball. You can't stop everything. A wise Chinese proverb: he who defends everything defends nothing. He who defends everything defends nothing. You're never going to defend every concept. You're never going to call a defense that stops everything. There's going to be holes in defense. It's just a fact of, unless you're playing with 12 guys and they have 11, you can't cover everything. So you got to know where the holes are. And you got to communicate that with your players. Let them know where the holes are. If it's single high, I'm going to tell my corners, hey, they're going to attack you. If we're playing single high, single high, single high, single high, single high, eventually they're going to take a shot down the field. They're going to run a guy down the field. Then they're going to have that guy sub out. They're going to bring in a fresh receiver and do the same thing, and they're just going to tire those corners out. So as a play caller, I got to think, okay, how many single highs have I called in a row? I've called 4 single highs in a row. Let me call some Tampa to give my corners a break. Like, that's how you got to be thinking as a play caller, because the offensive guys are going to see that too. Just have a feel for the game and how the game is going. All right, I think this is a similar concept. All right, so here they're in trip speed, what I call basically a nub tight end, and then these are all receivers over here. So it's trips, it's 3x1, and it's a speed set. This happens to be an extra tackle, which doesn't matter. But here they do a hard play action, and he's our curl flat player, which he's gonna go with the vertical of that. So how we teach it, since our nickel's gone on the vertical, if he goes to the flat, he's got to push through, unless they communicate it that he's going to fall off, and now our post safety is going to have to get all the way to this one. All right, so here, this is a vertical, obviously, by 2, and this is a vertical by 3. This is our strong hook curl player, but he bites the run. So you can see now it leaves a hole in the defense. And I want to say this too, all right? Some guys on this film on our defense are going to they're going to bust assignments at times. Some guys on offense are going to make plays on guys on defense. I will take anybody that's on this tape on defense. Like, I will take those guys into a game, and I will, for lack of a better term, go to war with those guys. Like, it's not an attack on any of these guys. I love all these guys, and I believe in their talent. But at sometimes in the game of football, the guys on offense get paid too. So they're going to make plays at times. And then the other thing is, sometimes the offensive coordinator is going to out-scheme me. Like in this situation, this isn't a great call for this coverage. So I got out-schemed. But like I said, it's not an indictment on any of these guys, because they might get beat a few times, but they're going to make more plays. And like I said, the numbers are going to back that up. But I also want to be honest and show you guys there are ways to beat defense, and you just got to not get beat. You got to find ways to not get beat. But there are holes are holes in every defense, so we'll expose the holes and we'll show them. That's even if Eli doesn't bite that hard on the run, that's still going to be a hard play to make because it's going to be he'll be sitting right here, and it's either they're going to throw this over him all the way over here, or they're going to dump it off to the back, and then he's going to have to make a tough open field tackle. Everybody's got problems. Everybody's got problems, but that's a good way to attack cover three. Like that's a good scheme. Hard play action to get those guys to bite up on the run, and then complete the pass. All right, here's another time where they're going to attack the seams. This is a 2x2 formation. Here, this is our tight nickel sting 3. So we're still in our 3 down front. Typically, they think he's the fourth rusher, right? Because that's just, you would think that. But now we're going to send him. And he's going to drop into coverage. And now he's going to be our strong curl flat. And he's going to be our post player. He's a hook curl. He's a hook curl. So we have 3 deep, 4 under. All right? 4 rushers. It's just a different way to get to it. Yeah, MBT was pretty good. I think he's back in Canada now. All right, so now you can see they don't think that he's going to blitz. They don't think that he's going to be in the pressure. They think he is. So they slide the entire line left to the offensive left, right? They don't even account for Bryce. They don't even account for him. They slide the whole line there. This is a good way for us to get a different look, and we get a free hitter on the quarterback. Bryce said he thought he threw the ball. That's why he didn't have a celebration. I still make fun of Bryce that he has no celebration right now. But here, this is a good look at it up here. He's responsible for the vertical of 2. He's leaning this way for the vertical of 2 weak. He needs to reroute a little bit more, and he should be really doesn't need to run with that, so he's right there. So we get the sack. Bryce doesn't celebrate. He just claps a little bit and then helps Josh up. But yeah, like we said, they slide the line this way because they think that this guy is the fourth rusher. And then they have numbers. So it would just be 1, probably here, here, and here. That's for them to block that. That's probably how they do it. They probably double the center. Yeah, so they double the nose. They double Boogie. He's going out to Olive, and he's really trying to go out to Vaughn, but they don't have anyone for him. He said, "Oh, I thought he threw the ball." Mm-hmm. All right, 2x2, attack the seams again. This is 12 personnel, so we're in base. Bryce needs to get over here a little bit, but this is a good picture of if we were playing true like country cover 3, it'd look a little bit like this. He would reroute and then expand. This is a good 2-to-1 read, and then he would be playing like middle of the field. That would be more what that would look like. Keith does a really good job of adjusting, but Bryce needs to get this way. He's looking at the QB's eyes, which I'm not mad about, but he needs to get this way by rule to take that. And we end up getting a sack. They might have called a face mask, but whatever. All right, so now we're looking at boot. And to go back to what you said earlier about cover 3 or cover 6, if they know that you're running a lot of cover 3, then they'll try to hit you with bootlegs. They'll send one guy out to the flat and then another guy on the over. In this situation, I think he goes to the flat and he goes over, maybe something like that. All right, but so in this picture, our curl flat player is Tarpley. So he's going to take this guy. And they're trying to hit this over because our corner's gone. They're trying to hit this in this vacated area from a curl flat player. It's similar to what we talked about, the area between the hook curl and the curl flat. But here you can see Tez does a really, really good job of recognizing boot. And then this is like a individual drill that they do, linebackers do. Recognize boot, get your eyes for this and get under it. This is what we call a zone turn. If he flipped this way, it would be a man turn. but he's going to zone turn and try to get underneath that guy. I don't know why he's going so vertical. He should probably bend it, but I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. But that's a really good job of getting that. And then he really should be aware for this guy. But then this is really good. He's in coverage. He's our weak side curl flat player. So he's staying disciplined to get over to that, which is really good. This is a really good picture of how we want to play cover 3 to boot. And Tarp does a really good job of playing deep to shallow. To then, this is like a 0 yard gain, I'm pretty sure. When I saw, I think it was a TFL. But if he doesn't play deep to shallow, if he goes and triggers on this right now, then they might be able to complete this comeback behind it. Yeah, 85 was Ba. I mean, he might have had like a side adjust on this guy, and since he's not deep, he might, if he was deeper, he might bend it, and if he is tighter, then he might split. I don't know. I don't know how they're built. I don't know. I don't know what he was doing. Yeah, Tez did that really nice though. All right, so that's a bootleg. Here's they're going to attack the nickel with speed. This is Eli back in 2022, but we've seen this one. He's got to be ready to go with how we're playing it. He's got to be ready to get on his horse and go. All right, that's another way they're going to attack it. All right, so now I don't remember who they were playing, but like a few years ago when Aaron Rodgers was still on the Packers, it might have been, I have no idea anymore, but they were playing a big cover 3 team. And they kept lining up in 3x1 and they were running RPO slant. Yeah, that's facts. They were running RPO slant on the backside to get this guy to trigger and just throwing this ball inside the corner. I appreciate you. We want this guy to press on the backside 3x1, which we talked about on a single side press. This is a tight end and this is a smaller corner, so like I'm not going to tell him to press because that would just, it wouldn't be good. Catch, tackle, cool. But the RPO backside slant gets this guy to trigger, especially if you have pullers, because he has to fit the pull. It opens up this window, especially if he's not going to press. And like I said, I'm not mad at him for not pressing in this situation because this is a tight end. We told him not to press there. But like we said, we also said that that's a weak point of the defense. Tell the guys where the weak point is. But that's a scheme. Backside RPO slant of 3x1 can be because right now how we're doing this, EJ is responsible for the A gap, one of these two A gaps with a leve. And now when we get this puller, he's got to fit all the way over here. But technically his coverage responsibility is like right here. But he's got to vacate that because this is run. Like RPO is run. So he's got to fit that. And just based on this call, they're going to complete that every time. Like they just are. Because we're not going to press a tight end with a smaller corner. If it's a man call, they're going to know it because the safety is going to be covering him. So like if they can do that all the way down the field, I got to call a different defense. But hey, they have they get a paycheck. Their coordinator gets a paycheck. Like they're going to make plays. So it's all right. It's a good tackle, catch tackle, play next snap. Like I'm not mad at that. All right, so now they're going to attack us with a bootleg again. I guess that they thought that we hadn't seen big personnel and wouldn't know how to match up to it, but I mean, I don't know. Similar concept. Here you can see Bryce. He's going to try to flip his hips and get depth. Ruben does a good job here, recognizing this over, getting to that over. Tez does a good job. I don't know how this got completed, but it got completed for like a 0 yard gain. So like same thing. I ain't even tripping on this one. This is a dangerous throw for that quarterback. Another bootleg, this time on a spread, but same concept, right? Similar concept. Get this curl flat player to expand. Try to throw this ball in behind in this area, right? That's a void in the defense. Here we get a nice rush because they're not accounting for him to be the fourth rusher. They're not accounting for him to be the fourth rusher. So when they do the bootleg, he just pulls it up and he has to dump it off to this guy. And I think it's just a catch tackle or incompletion. Catch. Yeah, he got a little bit more than we wanted him to right there. But I mean, shoot, we got a hit on the quarterback, which I will take that every day of the week. If they get early in the game 8 yards on a bootleg, but we hit their quarterback, I'll take that trade off. Like a clean legal hit. We're not taking cheap shots at the quarterback. We're not doing anything like that. We're gonna take a clean legal hit, but we're gonna hit the quarterback. Like he's part of the game too, and we're gonna try to hit him all the time. Yeah. Yeah. That's why you're blitzing. That's typically why you're blitzing your DBs, is because they're not gonna account for them in protection. I'm trying. Is the film, is it getting choppy a little bit? Let me try to let it chill for a second if it is. The next way that they're gonna try to attack us, Michigan did a really good job of this, is they're trying to hit switch verts. And by rule, he would take this guy and he would take this guy. Okay, film's been good. All right. Here, Tarp takes this guy and we don't really have one for this one, but they just didn't hit it. Or he might come off of it late. No, he doesn't. So like here, they got us in this one. We need to adjust to this one. Tarp needs to see this guy right here and take that one. And then Bryce really is responsible for this one. But because Boogie does such a good job on their center, the quarterback is flushed out of the pocket right now, and they can't find it. So that right there is like our rush, our D line up front, because those guys were dudes helping us out. They schemed us on that one, and they could have hit us, but right there, look at number 8 on the nose, little whatever you want to call that, snatch and grab, snatch and toss, shock, shed, getting the quarterback to have to get off his spot before he can find it. If Boogie doesn't win right there, we probably get hit on the switch seam. So, shout out to Boogie for that play. All right, here's another one of that concept. He's running the over, I believe. He's running the out vertical. He probably goes like this. This concept, the Oregon concept. Get the curl flat player out of there. Throw this ball outside of him. All right, so you can see right there, that's where they're trying to hit it. We talked about this countless times. This is the concept. This is where it's hit. So that's why he turns into it and gets underneath it, because we talked about it so many times. All right, here we almost make the sack, and then we get a nice QB hit, make him throw it away. I think that was Ethan. He was the Sportsman of the Year, like something like that, in 23. He played for the Panthers. Another bootleg. We'll get into some good stuff soon. But that's the same thing. They're going to attack us with the bootleg. Here, they're going back to the weak side. We're pretty good here because a lot of times if this guy was our fourth rusher, he would be our curl flat player and he would be responsible for that guy going to the flat. And it's a little harder for him because he's getting run and then he might be late. But here he was our curl flat player, so he's already leveraged for that. If that makes sense. All right, let's get to some good stuff now. All right, here, single high. They see single high right now. So this is from the championship game right here. He sees single high. He's just going to take it. We press on the backside of 3-by-1. I mean, that's a pretty good rep. He kind of loses his feet a little bit, but that's a good. This guy, number two, Magoo, in this championship game, he played lights out. Like he didn't throw one bad ball. He was lights out. I got to give him like that's a really nice ball. That's an NFL throw right there. Like that's a really nice ball. So like you gotta tip your hat to him. Perfect coverage is gonna a perfect throw is gonna beat perfect coverage every time. It just is, and like that happens. Just single high, they're gonna attack the corners, and that's on me. That's on me because they saw us in single high and they hit it like that. That's on me as a play caller. You can see right there. I don't know if your screen's big enough. He's given a signal. He's like pointing, doing like this down on his hip to the receiver. So that must be their single high check fade, and that's on me because I showed my hand and I showed them, hey, we're in single high, and they're at the 20-yard line. They took a shot and they hit it. That's on me. Cause that's a really nice ball right there. I mean, that's a really nice ball. But that's another thing with cover three. If they see it early, they're gonna try to attack the corners. And this was a good scheme that they had not shown. All right, so this is at 3x1 speed trips. This is the tight end Sternberger right here. They short motion the running back out, and there's confusion for our guys. Yeah, we want him to take this and him to push through, but they schemed us because right here we start to expand and see now Ruben's a little late. It's we didn't rep this during the week because they hadn't shown it. They came out with this and they hit us on it. I think they hit us maybe twice on this one. But we would like him to stay up here and him to push out to the flat. We got it fixed later, but I mean that didn't matter right now. That was a really good play for them. This was 3rd and 5, right before the half. And once again, hats off to them. Coach Holtz, he's a very good play caller, and this was a very good scheme, and they got us in it. I mean, in the past couple weeks, I had probably called a lot of cover three in this situation. You can't see it. It's 3rd and 5 right now. And I like cover three in this situation because we said it's good for mesh, because you're not running with crossers, and they got us. That happens in football. Gunfighters get shot. That was a good play from them. We do a good job of getting it on the ground and being able to play another snap, but that's a big play. All right, we saw this one the other day too. This is similar to what Michigan did, but they're just getting to it a little bit of a different way. Switch verts. That's a weakness in the defense. We need this guy to run with this vertical, but that's a fast receiver on a tight end or on a linebacker. Like that's a soft spot in the defense. Once again, Keith does a really good job. He bails us out here because if he doesn't see this, that's a touchdown. So thank you to Keith for bailing us out on this one because they didn't score on this. They might have kicked the field goal, but they didn't score a touchdown. All right, same thing. Single high, they're going to attack the corners. This is from a game against Philly. This one is ridiculous because remember a few plays ago we talked about Boogie where he shock and shed. He did that on the offensive lineman, which is legal. In this one, they see us in single high, and the receiver does it to our DB. He grabs him and throws him, which is not legal, but they didn't call it. So like you can see right there, he throws him to the ground, which is not legal in football. But this person who's looking right at it decided not to throw his flag, and
I don't know why they didn't throw their penalty, their yellow flag, but they didn't. So it is what it is. But they saw us in single high and they threw that, even though they were aided by a non-call. It is what it is. They don't like calling flags on the offense. They love to throw them on defense, but they don't like to throw them on the offense for whatever reason. They want points. Tough being a defensive coach. Tough being a defensive player. But that's where they're going to attack us. All right, so now I think this is probably the last instance of how they're going to attack us. They're getting to cross country here, a form of cross country, a big over, and same thing. And that's the other thing. This is Corey Coleman, and Corey spent probably at least 4 years in the NFL, so he knows he knows the intricacies of football. He knows the angle of that ref is behind him. So if his hands are inside and he throws him, he's not the referee isn't going to see it. Here, they're down the field. You can see, watch Mark. He gets pushed. They're not going to call that. If Mark grabs him back and restricts his jersey, they're going to call that. But they're not going to call that subtle push off by Corey. And I mean, shoot, that's a smart football player. That's a guy that's played football and understands the concept of the game. But that's another way they're going to attack us because our curl flat player is gone. All right, we don't have anyone over here anymore. My only advice to Mark is don't get pushed. But we get it on the ground and we play another snap. Same thing here, single high. They attack the corners down here at the bottom. Long foul ball. All right, they didn't hit it. If you're playing single gap defense, single high defense, if you get cut out, because like we said, single high, single gap, if you get cut out of a gap right here, it's going to be a hard tackle for the safety to make. Here it's not as hard because Eli kind of forces him to not be able to slow down or make a move one way or another. He's kind of got to keep going. But like, if anyone's ever played middle field safety, that is a very difficult tackle to make where there's right now 10 yards of space in between you and a running back who's running straight downhill, straight down the hash on you. Luckily for us, this guy, Tarp, made some great open field tackles. But that's not an easy play to make. Like, I know he makes it look easy, but that is not an easy tackle at any level of football. We talked about this one, backside of 3x1. That's another area where we want to press. They can attack us there. All right, so here is when we're starting to get into the good stuff. It's very good against mesh. All right, so we talked about 4 under, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 deep. And we're saying this guy's 1 and this guy is 1. So now it's 2, 3, 2, and we want to have field spacing with those guys. It ends up being 2, 3, 2, and this is a very perfect picture. One's locked up, curl flat players outside of 2, curl flat players outside of 2, hook curl players in between 2 and 3, hook curl players in between 2 and 3. This is why this is a great thing for cover 3. Field spacing's great. Like, it works. Incomplete pass. All right, so it's really good against mesh teams and like teams that run unders. I'll skip that one. All right, now we're getting into some run fit stuff. All right, so here we get guys that are going to just really fit the run correctly. Like we said with the puller, Ruben's got to keep going, getting over the top. They have 2 pullers. And right now we're really gap. He needs to pop this, and he needs to pop this to right here, and he needs to get over. He's here. But we get penetration where Boogie really knocks off 75. He knocks off that puller to where he can't get across and he can't go get his block. That's a good look at it. Here's another run. We'll look at this from the tight. Same thing. It's really the same play. Ruben here shoots it, makes him cut it back, and Vaughn comes from the backside and really makes the play. Tez got to keep going. He ends up being right. He can't get reached by 79. It might be hard. That one, this angle is kind of hard because the camera like tweaks on us. This might be the same look. They're probably going, back this way. Similar play, but with the pullers, right? And the other thing is, too, what we're talking about, like Tez, by rule, he's got to end up fitting here. He's got to fit all the way over here, and Ruben's got to fit over here. But at the same time, like, I don't want people to be robots. And what I mean by that is, by rule, Tez has to go over here. But there's an air right here, and he can see that he can make this play if he shoots it. Like, some guys can do that. Like, some linebackers, especially nowadays, like, linebackers are getting faster and more sideline to sideline linebackers, if you will. Like, think Fred Warner and Devin White. They can backdoor and make plays because they're fast enough. Not all linebackers can do that, but we had a few that could do that. And like, okay, if you're gonna backdoor, you gotta make the play. Like, if you backdoor and you're wrong and you don't make the play, well, that's a problem. But if you're gonna backdoor and you make the play, okay, you made the play. Here's another look at it. This is Houston. They're trying to get us into a tight formation. Right here, we're looking gap, 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 gap of some form or fashion. Gap, 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 gap. Corners out here, right? He's a middle field safety. Single high, single gap defense. Everyone's got a gap. Yeah, it's good if it works, and it's good if you're an instinctive player. So Tez knows that he's the C-gap player. I mean, shoot, that's his gap. It's pretty clear. He's going to go take it, make a tackle, and then we're going to swarm on defense, and we're going to get a TFL. That's a really good rep. Single high, single gap defense. And it looks good when it looks like this. No one's getting cut out of their gap. Ruben knows that he's in this A gap, but at the same time, he's not just going to run downhill when it's out here. He's gonna get there, and he's going to go make his play. All right, so single high, single gap defense. That's a good look at it. Yeah, that was a good rep. All right, so now they're trying to run a stretch, a little outside zone. There you can see Boogie, like we said. Let me get to the look. Single high, single gap defense, gap, gap, some form or fashion, gap, gap, here, there, he's there, and then we have a corner right here. All right, single high, single gap defense. Boogie, I think he gets reached, kind of, but he makes the play back here, and Ruben gets over the top. We'll see in a second. So, yeah, it's tough for this guy to reach a head-up nose. If we're in a 4-down front and we're right here, and right here, it's a lot easier for this guy to cut him off because he's closer to him, right? And it's a lot easier for this guy to cut him off. But since we're an odd front, the angles don't work as well. This guard couldn't cut Boogie off, and Boogie ends up making the play. That's another reason why we like odd defense. And the other guy that does a really good job right here is our outside linebacker. That's Vaughn Taylor. He does a really good job of not letting a tight end block him. Like, yes, he's being blocked, but he's setting the edge right here. The running back either has to bounce really far outside or he's got to cut it up. And we looked at the other day when we were talking about our playbook construction, what does force mean? It means physically setting the edge to make the running back either cut up or bounce or make the tackle. And he does that. The running back is either going to have to widen out and bounce, or he's going to have to cut up field. He's not just going to be able to attack the line of scrimmage and run away from Boogie. That's another good look at single high, single gap defense. All right, so now this is a spacing concept, and that's the other thing. Cover three, there it's gonna have holes underneath. Like right here, this guy's open, but that's 1, 2. He's 3 yards down the field. Catch it, tackle, cool. Eventually, offenses are gonna get bored. This guy, and more importantly, wherever their OC's up in the box, but say that's the offensive play caller, he's going to get bored. He's going to be like, nah, we got to take a shot. And they're going to try to take a shot eventually because offensive coordinators do that. They get bored. But here, it's another good look at it. That's our curl flat player. Hook curl on 3, curl flat on 2. No, not necessarily. It just depends on what the offense is doing. Like, but cover 3 is typically like a softer. I mean, anytime you're running zone defense, there's going to be holes in the zone. So like you're going to give up something. In cover 3, like if they are throwing underneath routes all day, then I'll switch to cover 2 or I'll switch to cover 4 or I'll switch to man. It's just you gotta like you can't stop everything. So like I don't know. Like right here, he's going to try to throw that. And Mark, I think, was, if he would have just trusted it and just ran through it, he probably would have picked it. But here he gets a PBU. That's 1. He's going to drive his 1. That's a good look at it. All right, here we talked about RPO slants. He's got to fit in on the run. This is open. RPO slants are going to be open in cover 3, really in a lot of coverages. Keith can have a little bit better technique here. He needs to get hands on, but I mean, shoot, it is what it is. Here's going back to who's our 4th rusher. They're not accounting for the nickel to be the 4th rusher, so it really messes with their blocking scheme over here, and he really has nowhere to run. He cuts back right into Jeremiah, who does a really good job of shedding and getting over the top. Here we're in empty. Ruben can push this way a little bit sooner, but like this is a receiver and these are 2 linebackers. Like there are going to be holes in the defense. It's a catch, but he gets hit. Like it's catch, whatever. Catch, tackle. They didn't score. Or they might have scored on this drive. I think they scored on their first drive and then they didn't do anything the rest of the day. But it is like they're gonna catch the ball a little bit. All right, so now we're looking at another thing of empty. All right, and like we said, we always want to have an answer for 4 verticals. All right, so here they run 4 verticals. He's responsible for that. He's there, and he's there. And if 3 went vertical, he would be responsible for it. This is empty, so when we get empty, it's match on both sides for us. Both of our curl flat players carry verticals when we get empty. That's a good look at it. All right, here's another look. If we get cut out, it's a tough tackle for the middle field safety. All right, he's technically, Olive is responsible for this B gap. He tries to get into the A gap, and then he gets held, and he can't make his play. But, like, this is Tarp as a middle field safety, making a tackle for 3 yards. Like I'm saying, this is such a difficult tackle to make, but he makes that look easy. That is an incredible rep of middle field safety, making the tackle on a run for 3 yards. Like that's an outstanding play. Okay, so now this is 4th and 2. You can't see it up here, but this is 4th and 2. This was the first drive of the game. We are in tight wheel auto, as you can see, but Tez had a headset. Typically, he would be right here. He'd be lined up right here. But we had a code word to where I could say it, and it was Aztec. And if I said that, because he went to San Diego State, he would walk down because his coverage is hook curl fitting off a three, and his run fit is also right here. So basically, the call was just to put him in his run fit, and like that was just something that if I wanted to, I would say it and get him down there and just kind of like feel. I can't say that there was like a rhyme or a reason for it, but in this situation, I was like, his run fit's there, and with this set, he's gonna be inside a three. So like if they run a slant, he's gonna make that play. And if he runs to the flat, then he's gonna like take it. So like it was just a way to get him to be in his assignment quicker, and it worked out for us really well because we got to stop on 4th and 2. Ruben smokes him. That was a big stop. This was early in the game. This was like the second or third drive. I think someone they messed up because both these guys pull into each other. But I can't solve that problem for them. That was a big stop. All right, here's another look at mesh, how we want to look at cover 3. Similar concept, right? Mesh. Outside of 2, the other guy's here, he doesn't release. But then we're here, he can drive on that. He can drive on that. He's sitting right here. If we're in man, then he would have to run with the under of this, and he would have to run with the under of that, and we'd probably get picked. So that's the reason that cover 3 is good. Because he's just sitting there, allowing that to come over to him. He's sitting here. He can make his play on that. Corner's going to make their play on 1. It's another good look at cover 3 versus mesh and unders and stuff like that. Here's a good picture up top of our curl flat player taking the wheel. He's got to take the out, and then when he goes vertical, he's going to go and take that. That's a good look at it. And then we make the tackle on 3rd and 8, and I think they missed the field goal, maybe? I'm not really sure. All right, so that is our cover 3 kind of breakdown and all that stuff. Do you guys have questions about any other stuff with cover 3 that we haven't talked about or that you guys want to know some more about? And please, if you have questions, let me know. But I mean, that's more or less cover 3, the holes in it, what is good for. And like we said, any coverage you have, you want to be able to cover 4 verticals out of 2x2 and 4 verticals out of 3x1. That's the big thing is, how are we going to cover verticals? If we're going to play true zone defense, then it's going to be if the quarterback can find it, then he's going to find it. And if we don't think that the quarterback is good enough, depending on what level of football we're at or the level of the quarterback, then maybe we'll play more true zone eyes and have the not be as worried about verticals. That depends on your philosophy and the type of players you have, and if you have a rangy safety that can make plays from sideline to sideline, you might not worry as much about running with verticals. Or if you're playing a quarterback that doesn't have a live arm that can't fire it in there, then you might not worry about it as much. But if you're playing a quarterback that can make those throws, you're going to have an answer for triple seam, for what you call all go special and verticals. But I mean, other than that, that's pretty in-depth breakdown of cover 3. Yeah, so if it's 11 or 10 personnel, you're typically going to be in like sub package, which is going to get 5 DBs on the field. Like versus 11 personnel, you're going to get 5 DBs on the field to match up with their receivers. So you have 2 safeties and like 3 corners with your nickel to match up with their 3 receivers. And then if it's 21 or 12 personnel, like a bigger set, then you're going to only have 4 DBs. You're going to have 2 corners and 2 safeties because they only have 2 receivers. So that's typically what you're going to do. Depending on down and distance, if they come out in like 12 personnel and it's 3rd and 5, and I'm like, they're not going to run the ball, they're going to throw the ball, I might be in nickel because I'd rather have better cover athletes than bigger guys. I'd rather have small, fast guys. But then if they're like coming out in 11 personnel and they're only running the ball, then you could be in base and just be like, we're going to stop the run. But typically, yeah, you're going to be in your base stuff, like your 4 linemen, 3 backers if you're a 4-3, or if you're a 3-4, you're going to be in 3-4, 3 down linemen, 4 backers. And then 4-2-5, if you will, in more receiver packages. And like the other thing about 3-4 versus 4-3, the big difference is when you're in 4-3, one of those outside backers is typically going to be a little bit bigger than the rest of the other 2 backers, because he's going to be the guy that's going to kind of walk up and be the edge of the defense, and he's like a 3-4 outside backer. Typically, a 3-4 outside backer in the NFL or in the USFL, like size wise, you want him to be anywhere from like 240 to 270, probably on the bigger side. Whereas like a 4-3 defensive end is probably going to be anywhere from like 250 on the light side to like 270, 280. Yeah, Micah Parsons is kind of different because he can do a bunch of different things. I guess your 3-4 outside linebacker, think TJ Watt. And your 4-3 defensive end, think Myles Garrett. Your 4-3 outside linebacker, yeah, I guess could be Micah Parsons, but he's kind of a unicorn because he can do a lot of different stuff. Think Bruce Irvin. Bruce Irvin, if you remember him for the Seahawks, he's like your prototypical 4-3 outside linebacker. He can go down and be the 4th rusher. He can be an end, but he's like an undersized defensive end. He was probably like 240-ish maybe. And I don't know if I'm saying that he's smaller than he is, but I would probably think that he was probably around 240. And that's kind of that mold of what you're looking for in a 4-3 outside linebacker. And like your 4-3 inside backers and your 3-4 inside backers, it's the same thing. Like that's your typical inside backer. That's your Luke Kuechly. That's your Fred Warner. I mean, like any guy you're talking about that plays inside backer. Those guys are interchangeable scheme-wise. 4-3 and 3-4 inside backers is the same thing. Urlacher or bust. Yeah, I mean, he was undersized. He played nose tackle at New Mexico or something like that. I think New Mexico State, one of them two. Back in the day, he was an undersized guy though. They ran a lot of Tampa, and he was in coverage a lot, running down the middle of the field. Back in the Lovie Smith Bears era. But yeah, I mean that's cover 3. The next stream we can talk potentially cover 6, cover 4. I mean, we can talk Tampa, we can talk fire zone, we can talk man pressure. We'll figure out what we're gonna do next stream at a later point in time. But I mean, that is cover 3, and I think probably the next one we'll probably do is probably cover 4 and cover 6, because we can probably just do 4, 2, and 6 all in the same thing. And then after that, we'll get into man, or we'll get into pressure or something like that. But I think we'll go quarters in the next stream, quarter type stuff. And really kind of like what we did today is like how we would install first day of camp. For us, first day of camp install would be tight strong 3, tight nickel sting 3, and then tight saw 1, which would be our 1 pressure. When is next stream? Probably in 2 days. What's today? Tuesday, probably Thursday. I think it'll probably be better to do every other day, because then it'll give me some time to prepare, so I can prepare the next stream tomorrow and tonight and stuff like that. So probably every other day or something like that. Maybe we'll do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and a weekend stream. I'm not sure, but I think we'll that one. This one is a Super Bowl trophy, and that one's also a Super Bowl trophy. They're both Lombardis. Hold on. This was back when I was a ball boy. Come on now. Shout out. Yeah, the Coach of the Year award. Yeah, we got the turnover hammer. We got the Mauler's helmet, the Coach of the Year. That's Barry Sanders. That one's Randy Moss. USFL ball and high school helmet. Yeah, the turnover hammer goes hard. And then we had the old speaker and all that stuff. But yeah. And the record player and some Mac Miller stuff and just some other stuff like that. But I think we'll probably do another stream Thursday. Yeah, I like it. It turned out good. I'm finna get a picture, like a map. I gotta get it. But I appreciate that. I work pretty hard on it to make it look nice. But I mean, yeah. Thanks for coming out for the stream. Like, I was like an hour and a half talking cover 3, which is fun. We'll do 4. We'll do quarters and 2 high, and then we'll probably do fire zone after that, because those kind of work off each other, and I really like talking fire zone. But thank y'all for coming out. The VOD will be up, and I'm gonna put it up on YouTube. I'm gonna try to like get some clips and stuff too, like put on Twitter and all that stuff. So I appreciate y'all coming out. I had a good time, and shoot, I'll catch y'all on the next one. Deuces.